used to it because I realize there are certain things that will get him edgy, and he always says he major in the minor and minor in the major. So we're going to show you the sign, welcome to Alabama.
Better known as Sweet Home Alabama. There you go.
Welcome to Alabama.
And even the GPS is helping us with that. It says welcome to Alabama. So
This is the kind of scenery what Alabama looks like. Very, very dense forests and rolling hills. And Alabama's a beautiful state. It's not mountainous by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see these nice rolling hills and stuff. It's a beautiful state.
yeah,
So that's all we wanted to show you.
yes.
Wanted to say hello. Unless Michelle has something else to add. Oh, tell them about your experience at the truck stop.
Yeah, so a while ago we just had a conversation. You'll see the video before this one with this girl, Angelica. And I know she was a little bashful because she probably was wondering, is this girl randomly asking me questions and with a camera? And I know nowadays people are skeptical. So sorry, Angelica. I know you probably were wondering, but she did come around because she understood that we had a YouTube channel and we were just taking a little bit of a page of her experience on the road. And I didn't get to ask her a lot of questions because I didn't want to startle her too much because she was a little bit bashful. Anyways, but it was very interesting to see a female driving a tractor trailer, which is about the same length as this one, 75 feet.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I was fascinated by that because, like I said, driving these vehicles, it takes a lot of concentration, judgment, all that kind of stuff. And you're gonna hear me say that a lot because when you're sitting in the vehicle, you realize what it takes to maneuver and be, you know, able to drive carefully. So yeah, so it was nice to see a female doing that. And she said she was doing it. She has been doing it for 2.5 years, and you know the fact that she just seems very confident to me. That's great. So here's a rest area.
It's the Welcome Center.
Yeah, which is the welcome center for Alabama. So if you're driving,
That's where I took my son, right there.
really?
Yep, I have a picture of it. When I
Oh,
took it.
Sweet Home Alabama. And that's the song. That's the song,
It
right?
is. It is.
Yeah. You know, some songs just reminds you of, the posts that you see, like, obviously, Sweet Home Alabama. I guess it's just a thing that they have out there. So, yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, so we're riding along, and now we're in Alabama. We left Tennessee, and we're just going down towards the southern section. And yeah, we were actually going through, and I mean, I know this is probably a good time to talk about some of these things. So, back in the days, right? When would it be? Maybe at least, did we not say 1983? They still had certain
Oh, you're
restrictions.
referencing. Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
Would it be Canada?
Oh, are you
or just-
referencing? No, are you referencing segregation?
Yes.
No, segregation finished in 1967.
Yeah.
So, but there were still, yeah, but you were referencing Canada, but that's
Yeah. In Canada, segregation ended in 1983 in Nova Scotia.
yes, no, that's not true. Segregated schools.
Sorry, the last school.
Yeah,
the last school.
It was done in 1983. Segregation
Yes.
last. But down here in Alabama, down here in the southern states, period. Segregation itself was once the civil rights. Anyone who knows anything about civil rights, once the Civil Rights Act came in, that all blacks could vote, and then there was no more. All the Jim Crow laws were removed, and anyone who knows anything about history understands what Jim Crow laws are. Those were prohibiting blacks and whites being mixed in any everyday living, as such as theaters, bathrooms, movie theaters. God designed me, but it's not that we're, as you rightly said, we're not a different species, and this is where it gets convoluted and where a lot of racism and so on and so, and just man in itself, you know, like thinking like of course we're getting off on a tangent here, but if you go back to like, you know, Hitler's manifesto, he literally thought that Jews, blacks, gays, all that were literally, he got this from Darwin, that blacks were literally a subhuman species. In other words, less than human, and that's disgusting and absolutely an egregious thought of anything. It's a very sinful perspective. But the whole point is, we can still use a term. We have obviously an interracial marriage, which is fine. But we know what we mean when we say that. You know, I'm not a different species, and Michelle's a different species. We're just an interracial culture. You know, post the Tower of Babel, when all languages and races were split off, and then we began to certain melatonin levels began to thrive, if you could say it this way, evolutionarily across the globe to format themselves for the different parts of the world as God, right? But that's a whole different other topic in itself. But no, down south, I mean, you know, but specifically down south, obviously there's still a lot of tension within black and white cultures, because obviously, sadly to say, and it's an egregious thing, you know, the KKK still exists, and you know, we all know that's a white supremacy group right from the pit of hell. We know that for a fact, and they're alive and well everywhere in the United States. And actually, Michelle and I were just watching a documentary. We didn't even know that, and I'm someone who thrives on history that usually knows a little bit more than the average person. I didn't realize that the KKK is in Canada, and they used to march across it. Oh, I did not realize it came on our shores. So, sadly to say. But anyhow, we don't really want to talk about anything negative, but it's far more accepted down here in cultures. But there's racism everywhere. I don't care what part of the globe you're from. But if we're talking just North America, certainly down south, it's a little more prevalent in regards to the obvious tension between white and black. For those who quote unquote see it as different people, you know, those who have racist lens and they look it through it. So, but for the most part, it's you know, we get, even in our own city, we get strange looks a lot when we go out, people being an interracial couple. But anyways, I don't want to ramble on. I could go on forever about it, but it's a beautiful part of the country. So back to you, Michelle.
Okay, here's Athens State University. Yeah, so it's something, and I know some people may want to know, because a few people asked me.
But that was the first video we did. Remember, you said people were interested in what it's like to be involved in an interracial couple. So I don't think we ever did that video. Have we done that video?
No, we never did it.
We'll have to do it sometimes.
So this is kind of like a synopsis of it. Like, yeah. And also because people ask me, what is it like to marry someone that is not part of my culture or my ethnic background. And one of the things I didn't explain or I didn't say before, this was not my first time marrying someone from a different background. So for those persons who probably aren't aware, I was married 2 times before this, and unfortunately I was married pretty young. I was married when I was 22, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I was 22 when I got married the first time. And
but how long at that point were you in Canada?
I was there maybe about a year and a half or so. But the thing is, I was still new to the environment, but also that was not my first time being exposed or even interacting with someone from a different background. mixture of different cultures. We have multiple cultures. It's almost like Canada in a sense where you have a lot of people from India, a lot of people from China there, and they have their own businesses. You have also people from Europe, a lot of people from Europe reside in Jamaica, different parts of the country, and also some parts are populated by people who are mixed with different nationalities. For example, the western side of Jamaica, you'll find a lot of Germans, maybe a bit of Russians that populated that area. And then on the east side, you find people that are from, well, mixed with mixed with people from like the more European part, like say, for example, England and Scotland and so on, and even the middle part too, because my dad's side of family, they're Irish, Scottish kind of thing. So people don't realize the origin of Jamaica. It is not a purebred country. So anyway, so going back to why I mentioned that is because when I was in high school, I met someone who was from, his family was from Ireland or Scottish, I can't remember. And I think his last name was Clacken. So I'd have to go look it up to see where they originated from. But I think it was Ireland. Anyways, and his family migrated to Jamaica, and he was Caucasian. So that was not, the first exposure. But in Jamaica it's different because you're not feeling like you're just one type of a person, because the motto for Jamaica is out of many, one people. So we know that we're built up of many cultures, many ethnic backgrounds, but we consider ourselves as one people. So the motto is out of many, one people. So that's our mentality. So for the most part, most Jamaicans that I know, we're not prejudices. We're not prejudiced.
No.
We're not prejudiced.
You're just not. No.
We're not.
No. It's singular. We're not prejudiced.
We're not prejudiced. Yeah. So yeah. Whatever. So anyway.
Or we're not. Or another way of saying it is you're not a bigot.
Yes. So he knows the terms. I don't really know that term bigot. But anyway. So we're not like that, right? And we welcome people from different nationality and stuff. We don't.
Why does the picture keep coming off and on?
Because it sleeps.
So is it recording you still?
Yeah, it's there,
okay.
but it sleeps. So I just touch the back and it opens up again. Yeah. So going back to that, so I'm used to the culture, and also in high school, I went to Woolmer's. For those persons who are Woolmerians, big up, shout out to all the Woolmerians. I was a Woolmerian in high school, and at Woolmer's, a lot of our teachers were from Europe. We had a lot of exchange students as well that came from different parts of the world. We had people from Japan, people from England, people from Spain, people all over. So then going back to why I'm mentioning all this stuff is the fact that my background, I never had like that kind of mentality where I think that motorcycle, so it was a plus. But anyways, that was not a reason, because I didn't see that at first when I saw him.
She asked me to see the ownership. That's how serious what she was.
Anyways, so going back to that, so a lot of people may refrain from exposing themselves to opportunities like how I did, right? And sometimes you can miss out on something that was probably gonna work out as for you guys to work out as a couple. So I would say that we have to break down the barriers that divide us, because it causes us to be, we restrict ourselves to the point where we restrict ourselves out of opportunities, and that's kind of my take on it. And so even talking about the historical points of how things used to be back in the days, especially in Alabama, this would never happen, right? As Mark said, either he would be shot or I would be lynched or something like that.
No. You left out a.
Yeah.
No, hold on.
Back in the days.
Yeah, you gotta give context to that.
Okay, you can share that part.
No. I mean, people can think for themselves, but I mean, the reality is an interracial relationship in southern Alabama in the 30s and 40s, for the sake of conversation, even into the late 50s or 60s. Oh, before lynching, everybody who knows anything about lynching, and beforehand, I would certainly either be beaten to a pulp or killed myself, probably. Michelle would be lynched for sure, as an interracial relationship wouldn't fly. Did people do it? Sure. Did everybody die who did it? No. But if you're in an area where it's highly concentrated with the KKK, oh, it was absolutely forbidden. For not legally, it was just forbidden because of the nature of white supremacy and racism. It wasn't certainly Christian values, that's for sure. Although sadly and disgustingly, the KKK claimed to be a Christian group. Yeah, they were Christian, all right. They were about as Christian as Judas was from the Bible. So we'll leave it at that.
And
on to you, Michelle.
And the next thing is, even in my culture, I would say this, and I know probably I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this, but some people even think that it's not Christian to interrelate or intermarry. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so that means we're not serving the same God, right? And that means God is maybe I would say he discriminates, because if we are serving the same God, right, and God does not discriminate, why do we think that we have the right to discriminate? And that is one of my challenge with how people view these kind of relationships. And like I said, I always wonder, like, if we can't get along here on earth, how are we going to get along in the kingdom? And this even extended itself beyond intermarrying with different cultures. It also I would also like to bring up things like even in status, right, where people think they're better than other people and they can't get along with someone because they are not up to their level. And I have a huge problem with that, because if you can't get along with someone here, where are you going? Especially if you're a Christian. I wonder about it. Where are we going if we can't get along with people here? So I wonder why we So
Welcome to Alabama.
welcome to Alabama, and that's a little bit of synopsis from and Mark. Mark also has had his share. The first girl that Mark had a crush on, her background was Indian, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and he met her sometime later on. I think it was in Quebec.
No.
Where did you meet her?
I met her at a hospital. Turned out to be a doctor. I messed up. No ill intent, my baby. She's turned out to be a doctor. No, she was in my grade 5 class, and I'll never forget her name. Her name was Roshini. So
Yeah, he had a crush on her all this, the whole time, and I don't think he ever told her.
no,
He was shy.
I think I did, but
You talked to her, but you didn't tell her that you had a crush on her, did you?
no, I think I did, but I think people again back to we're talking. This is in the 70s, maybe in early 80s. Yeah, it was a no-no for cultures to mix. People didn't like the idea of it. I didn't see color at all. I just seen character and the beauty in her personality and so on and so forth. But fast forward, maybe I think I'll go with 25 years, 30 years later. I was going into the hospital in the city I used to live in, and I was actually taking my second son in there to get his operation on his elbow, and then who walks out in their white smock with their medical thing going, "Hi, I forget what her last name was, but what does say, Dr. Smith?" And I was like, and I said, I said, "Roshini?" And she's like, "Yes, that's my first name, yes." I said, "Do I know you?" I said, "Of course you know me. Grade 5, Glen Echo School." And then she just stopped, and she goes, she goes, "Marky?" And that's what they called me when I was younger, Marky.
Yeah, he was a little Mark,
Yeah,
so he was
she
Marky.
was like, "Marky," and I was like, oh, and then she gave me a hug and we laughed, and that was it.
Yeah. And also, people don't know this as well, is that Mark's first marriage wasn't to someone who looked like him either. He was married to a native, so meaning that he does not
I don't see
discriminate.
color. I don't see
He does not
race.
discriminate. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't discriminate. So we were both similar in terms of how we see the world and how we see people. So we didn't have that hang up as some people do. So it kind of worked out that that's kind of how we are. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to know that. So people might wonder, why would I do this or why would he do that? It's because of our mentality. Our mindset is different from a lot of people out there. So we don't discriminate. And the main thing is we are Christians, and if God does not discriminate, can you imagine if God extend discrimination to us? Where would we be? Like, think about it. Think about that for a second. If God discriminated against us in that way.
And let me interrupt here on purpose, because there are some in the background that will say, "Oh, but God did discriminate. He made sure that the Jews didn't ever intermarry with other pagan cultures." That is correct, because that was in order for them to keep their covenant with God as a distinct people. It wasn't because the fact that they were Philistines or Canaanites and there was something evil necessarily about their race. It was intermarrying, so they did not take on the gods and the culture of the pagan nations.
Yeah.
But post Jesus Christ, all of those things were abolished. Just for those. So those who think that interracial
that's a
marriage
very
is
good
a
point.
sin,
It's a very good point.
it's not even. There's no biblical precedent for a racist mentality at all.
And also in light of what Mark said in terms of intermarrying with other nations at the time for the Jews, if they did, those persons that they intermarried had to conform to their beliefs. So it didn't really necessarily. The restriction was mainly for what Mark said.
No, hold on. Let me close it.
Because there were cases where they were intermarrying, but
yeah, but if you look at any story that shows an intermarriage where there Or they went in. No, it wasn't a matter of conforming. It was a matter of it was against God's will. You look at any of the stories where, for example, Samson, what did he take on? He took on Delilah, had an illicit relationship. Why? It was obviously an illicit relationship, but more specifically, he went and had a Canaanite wife, a Canaanite woman, so on and so forth. David did the exact same thing. Solomon did the exact same thing. All these concubines and so on, they all sinned against God. But it wasn't because God's a racist, obviously. It was because the main primary reason they had to stay as a distinct nation was they did not want them, because God is a jealous God. God did not want them to draw them away from.
And that was a natural thing to happen.
Yeah. Draw them away from God Himself and go start serving other gods. So that was the premise of the no intermarry. But when Jesus Christ came along and set the captives free, race, ethnicity, as Paul said, there's no longer Jew, no longer Greek, no longer slave, no longer free.
And some people don't even see that as a verse that would dictate.
Well, that's contextually. Well, hold on. Contextually, that's not what that verse means. It's not about marrying. I was just using that in regards to the lens in which God looks upon people now. As opposed to Jesus Christ, we're as captives, we're set free. So we can marry whoever we want, whatever we want, and have beautiful children.
As long as you are both saying the same thing, you're believers of Christ.
And of course, you're married. Doesn't mean you can have an illicit relationship with who you want. I was just referencing about marrying. You can marry anyone you want, any part of the world, and procreate. Have
so
children.
so people should not feel like they're doing something wrong when they do that, and should be proud as a child of God, representing God in whatever capacity, wherever you are in the world. And so that's kind of where we are, and we just wanted to give a little bit of, and I know some people may not, these kind of topics, they steer away from it, but it's okay, because we believe that this is good for other people to know that where God is concerned, we should always see each other as equal. We're one people, and though it may not be the natural order of how society operates, but this is what God ordained.